I've spent weeks rewatching Fairly Odd Parents, every evil, twisted, downright criminal thing Vicky has done.
Vicky's been evil ever since I can remember, which, to be fair, is only about 2 minutes ago.
And one thing has become crystal clear. This isn't just bad babysitting. This is child abuse. And if she existed in the real world, she wouldn't just be grounded or fired.
In fact, Vicky, I think we'll have little need of your services in the future. Timmy seems perfectly capable of taking care of himself.
You mean I'm fired? Thanks, Mom. I had a great time staying all by myself.
She'd be in prison for a long, long time because, make no mistake, Vicky isn't just mean. She isn't just a bully. She's a full-blown, power-hungry, sadistic criminal.
Where am I? What am I doing here? And why aren't you miserable? You better!
And today, we're going to break down her crimes and find out exactly how long she'd rot behind bars. Let's start with the obvious. Vicky's entire job is to watch over children, specifically Timmy Turner. She's supposed to take care of him, keep him safe, and be a responsible adult. Instead, she turns every babysitting shift into a living nightmare. Now, we all know bad babysitters exist. Some ignore the kids, some spend all their time on the phone, some let the kids stay up late. But Vicky, she goes so far beyond bad, it's disturbing. We're talking about straight-up child abuse. She locks Timmy in rooms for hours. She forces him to do backbreaking chores. She withholds food and water. She humiliates him, gaslights him, and psychologically torments him. And that's not even the worst part. Because if Timmy complains, she blackmails him. She tells his parents that he's making up stories. She fakes innocence, so they believe she's the perfect babysitter. And because Timmy's parents are oblivious to everything, Vicky keeps getting away with it. Now, in the real world, this wouldn't just be bad babysitting. This would be child neglect, psychological abuse, and domestic violence.
Maybe now I can catch up on my beauty rest. Not that I need any.
Any real legal system would tear her apart. And if she thought forcing Timmy to do her laundry was bad, wait until she's forced to do prison chores for the next 50 years. Now, if you think Vicky's cruelty stops at emotional abuse, think again. She isn't just manipulative, she's physically dangerous. Let's talk about the time she shocked Timmy with electricity. Yes, you heard that right. She literally electrocuted a child. Now, this wasn't some minor prank or a joke that went too far. She did this intentionally, knowing full well it would hurt him. And if electrocuting Timmy wasn't bad enough, how about the time she threw him into a cage like a wild animal? Or the time she threatened to break every bone in his body? Or the countless times she chased him with weapons, tried to drown him, or straight up tortured him for fun? If we're talking about real-world consequences, this isn't just child abuse anymore. This is assault with a deadly weapon. This is reckless endangerment. This is attempted murder. And every single one of those crimes, they stack up. In any normal legal system, she wouldn't just be facing a lawsuit. She'd be in solitary confinement before she even had time to say Timmy. And honestly, that's still a lighter punishment than what she deserves. And the worst part? We're just getting started. Because Vicky's crimes don't stop at Timmy. She terrorizes the entire town. Everything about Vicky's crimes comes down to one simple truth. She thrives on fear. She doesn't just want power. She wants total control over the people around her. She wants people to flinch when she enters a room. She wants kids to empty their pockets just to keep her away. She wants adults to fall for her scams and never question her. In the real world, this isn't just bullying. This is criminal intimidation. And people who thrive on power like this, they don't stop on their own. They keep pushing the limits until someone stops them. And hey, speaking of stopping villains, if you've made it this far, congratulations. You're already part of the jury. So why not make it official? Hit that subscribe button, join Cartoon Courtroom, and help us put more animated villains on trial. Because trust me, this trial is far from over. And with everything Vicky has done, her worst crimes are still yet to come. By now, we've ripped apart the idea that Vicky is just a mean babysitter. We've proven beyond a doubt that she's a criminal. But here's the problem. Her reign of terror doesn't stop at Timmy Turner. Oh no, Vicky doesn't just torment one child, she terrorizes everyone. Timmy's friends, his classmates, random strangers, even adults. And somehow, nobody ever stops her. She uses fear as a weapon. She threatens, blackmails, and destroys lives, all while hiding behind a sweet, innocent act whenever parents are around. And in any real-world legal system, she wouldn't just be avoiding punishment, she'd be the most wanted criminal in town. Because what she does next, it isn't just bullying, it's straight-up extortion, blackmail, and theft. Vicky doesn't just hurt people for fun, she does it for profit. Because why just torture kids when you can steal their money too? This isn't some small-time scam. She runs a full-blown criminal operation, threatening children into paying her just to be left alone. And the worst part? Everyone goes along with it. Timmy's friends, Chester and AJ, they're forced to hand over their allowances just so Vicky doesn't make their lives miserable. Even adults fall for her con. Remember when she scammed Timmy's parents into paying her extra for premium babysitting services? That's fraud. And what does she do with all that stolen money? Does she save it? Invest it? Maybe buy something useful? She wastes it on herself, buying expensive clothes, gadgets, and luxury items while her victims suffer. In the real world, this wouldn't just be a mean babysitter problem. This would be felony-level theft, fraud, and extortion. And if she got caught, her prison sentence just got even longer. Because stealing money from kids is bad enough. But Vicky doesn't stop at money. She steals something even worse, their freedom. It's one thing to steal money. It's another to trap people like prisoners. And Vicky? She does both. Remember the time she locked Timmy in a cage? Or when she literally held him hostage in his own home? Or the countless times she tied him up, gagged him, and refused to let him leave? That's not babysitting. That's kidnapping. And in any normal legal system, that's an automatic felony. In most places, kidnapping alone carries a 25-year prison sentence. And Vicky, she's done it too many times to count. But it doesn't stop there, because Vicky isn't just about control, she's about absolute power. And when she doesn't get her way, she doesn't just lash out, she gets dangerous. The terrifying part about Vicky, it's not just Timmy, it's not just his friends. She has a whole list of victims. Trixie, Tootie, random kids at school, even her own little sister. That's right, Vicky isn't just a bully to strangers, she targets her own family. And in any real-world scenario, that would be the final nail in her coffin. At this point, her crimes aren't just stacking up. They're piling so high, she'll need a step stool just to read her own rap sheet. But even with everything she's done, she somehow manages to take things even further. Because this isn't just about power anymore. This is about control, destruction, dominance. And when she gets the chance to take things to a whole new level, she doesn't hesitate. At this point, we've already established that Vicky is far beyond just a mean babysitter. She's a criminal, a manipulator, a tyrant. But somehow, some way, she always wants more. Because bullying Timmy? Not enough. Torturing kids? Not enough. Scamming families out of their money? Still not enough. No, Vicky doesn't just enjoy being in power. She craves total domination. And when she gets her hands on real power, whether it's magic, technology, or mind control, she doesn't hold back. She goes from dangerous babysitter to full-blown supervillain. And if you thought her crimes couldn't get worse, buckle up, because things are about to get terrifying. We've seen Vicky abuse power before, but what happens when she gets actual world-changing power? Well, it's never good news for anyone around her. Take the time she got access to a magical microphone. A normal person might have used it for fun, harmless tricks. But Vicky? She used it to brainwash an entire school into worshiping her. She forced students to obey her every command, turning the school into a totalitarian nightmare. And the moment someone questioned her rule, she punished them without hesitation. And if you think that was just a one-time thing, think again. Because Vicky has had her hands on time travel tech, mind control devices, and even military-grade weapons. And every single time, she does the exact same thing. Takes over, abuses her power, and rules with an iron fist. Now, in a real-world setting, this wouldn't just be an abuse of authority. This would be domestic terrorism. Imagine a real person, a corrupt leader, a rogue officer, or a power-hungry dictator, using weapons, mind control, and mass coercion to enforce their will. That's Vicky. And if she were ever caught and tried for this, she wouldn't be going to juvie. She'd be sent straight to a high-security facility, the kind reserved for the most dangerous criminals in history. Now, we've already covered the physical abuse. But what about the mental abuse? Because Vicky's worst crimes aren't always the ones you can see. Sometimes, her most terrifying acts happen inside the minds of her victims. Let's talk about Tootie, Vicky's own little sister. From the moment Tootie could talk, Vicky tormented her relentlessly. She bullied her, humiliated her, and shattered her confidence. She made sure that Tootie grew up believing she was worthless, weak, and helpless. And in real life, this is exactly how psychological trauma forms. Many abuse victims don't just suffer physical wounds, they carry mental scars that last a lifetime. An abuser like Vicky wouldn't just be charged with physical assault. She'd be facing years of prison time for emotional abuse, coercion, and psychological manipulation. And in many cases, that kind of psychological warfare is treated just as seriously as physical torture, because breaking a person's spirit is sometimes worse than breaking their bones. And that's exactly what Vicky does. She doesn't just hurt people physically, she destroys their sense of self. And the most terrifying part? She enjoys every second of it. Everything about Vicky's crimes comes down to one simple truth. She thrives on fear. She doesn't just want power, she wants total control over the people around her. She wants people to flinch when she enters a room. She wants kids to empty their pockets just to keep her away. She wants adults to fall for her scams and never question her. In the real world, this isn't just bullying. This is criminal intimidation. And people who thrive on power like this, they don't stop on their own. They keep pushing the limits until someone stops them. And yet, somehow, in all these years, nobody has. Nobody has held Vicky accountable. Nobody has stood up and taken her down. But if justice ever caught up with her, there wouldn't be any escape this time. Because at this point, she wouldn't just be serving a prison sentence. She'd be facing the kind of trial that would shake the nation. And by the time the verdict was read, there wouldn't be a single person in Dimsdale who would miss her. For years, Vicky has terrorized children, extorted money, abused her power, and gotten away with it. She's broken the law at every possible level, from physical assault to psychological torture, from fraud to kidnapping, and even acts of mass control. And yet, despite all of this, she's never faced a single consequence, not one arrest, not one lawsuit, not even a single detention. She's been free to do whatever she wants, for as long as she wants. But in any real legal system, she wouldn't just be grounded, she'd be rotting behind bars for the rest of her life. Because what Vicky has done isn't just bad behavior, it's a lifetime of crime. And today, justice finally catches up with her. Now, let's be clear. Vicky wouldn't be walking away with just a slap on the wrist. Her crimes would be treated as serious felonies, and in any real legal system, the charges would be stacked sky high. Let's break this down. For child abuse and neglect, she'd be looking at decades behind bars. For kidnapping and illegal imprisonment, she'd be serving at least 25 years. For fraud and extortion, the fines alone would bankrupt her. For physical assault and attempted murder, the sentences just keep climbing. For psychological torture and criminal intimidation, she'd never see daylight again. And let's not forget her acts of mass control, mind control devices, magical manipulation, taking over entire schools. That's domestic terrorism level crime. If this trial were happening in real life, the judge wouldn't even need to think twice. The verdict? Life in prison. No chance of parole. But here's the worst part. Even with a life sentence, she'd still be getting off easy compared to what she put her victims through. Because in reality, the scars she left behind would never fully heal. If Vicky ever saw the inside of a real courtroom, the list of witnesses against her would be endless. Timmy Turner, Tootie, Chester, AJ, Trixie, even random kids from Dimsdale Elementary. Every single one of them could testify to years of cruelty, manipulation, and abuse. And when the final charges were read aloud, the courtroom would go silent, because no amount of excuses, no fake tears, no lies could save her this time. Not her fake, sweet babysitter act. Not her ability to manipulate clueless parents. Not her bullying tactics. She'd finally be facing real punishment. And the truth is, there's no realistic sentence that could ever fully repay the damage she's done. But if justice were served properly, she'd be locked away forever, and Dimsdale would finally be safe. But here's the real tragedy. Vicky never got caught. She never paid for her crimes. In Fairly Odd Parents, she's still out there, ruining lives, getting away with everything. And that's what makes her terrifying. Because in real life, people like Vicky do exist. They abuse power, escape consequences, and leave behind victims that never get justice. And unless someone stands up and stops them, they just keep going. So while Vicky might be a cartoon villain, the impact of people like her is very, very real. And if she were ever put on trial, there wouldn't be a single person in Dimsdale willing to defend her. Because at this point, she wouldn't just be serving time, she'd be a cautionary tale. And now, the verdict is in. Vicky is guilty on every charge, and she won't be babysitting anyone ever again. But what do you think? Would a life sentence be enough for Vicky? Or does she deserve even worse? Let us know in the comments below. And before you go, don't let other cartoon villains escape justice. Subscribe to Cartoon Courtroom, and together, we'll make sure the worst of the worst get what's coming to them. Because justice never sleeps.